You're listening to Thomasville, North Carolina's best gospel station, WEOM 103.1 FM.
Thomasville, North Carolina. Entertainment talk radio at its best with Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth on Crucial Conversation on 103.1 WEOM FM.
Hi, everybody. This is Kaye Dee with the Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth radio show. How are you guys doing today? How are you today, Motor Mouth?
Oh, I'm fine. And you?
I'm wonderful. A little sleep deprived and a little crazy for staying up all night looking at the election, but it was worth it. It was worth it. I enjoyed myself. I think I stayed up to like maybe 3, maybe 4. I don't know. Lose track of time. Yeah. But I enjoyed the election last night. I thought it was awesome. And the Obama family, they came out and they did their thing, and it was nice. But, I kept thinking to myself, what is taking them so long after the polls started coming in? And they started doing the statistics. What was taking them so long to come out and do the speech on the stage? I'm like, oh, my goodness.
Well, I guess he just didn't want to make the speech before Romney.
Before Romney, yeah.
Gave him a call.
Like, what's up with Romney? Oh, my God. I mean, nobody wants to lose. Nobody likes losing. And he doesn't strike me as the type of person that is used to losing, but it's like he was holding up quite a bit.
Well, I think it was more or less the media, the way they portrayed it and did everything, because, necessarily they didn't even have to make it seem like it was close at no time, really. It just depends on how they released the polls of the electoral votes coming out, If they had did the blue states and just kind of held it back and, So I guess, to make it interesting, just like they try to make a good fight,
Right. Well, it was like a fight. It was like the Super Bowl for politics, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, they built it that way.
Yeah.
They built it up, but, as I say, I just don't feel, I guess I kind of lost interest in it, but, I wanted Obama to win because out of the two, I'd rather go with him. But it was just the idea, nothing seemed correctly right to me the way they was.
How so, Motor?
Well, there were so many issues that first of all, I think the Republican Party need to find somebody, a good candidate that's really going to run, because there was just too much negativeness.
Are you trying to say that you didn't like Mitt Romney? And are you trying to say before you didn't like John McCain and before Sarah Palin? But on that same subject line.
There's nobody of quality.
I don't think the Republicans have had, in my opinion, someone that was, I don't want to say quality, but someone that was actually going to make me turn around and actually consider voting for them. It's just, I don't know what's up with the Republican Party. Maybe they have to regroup themselves about who they get to represent them and who they really are and what they really stand for, if they're going to move in a different direction. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, they had some, decent people in the past. They just did not allow them, even with McCain, even this time around, they had some decent people, I think, that would have been more people-oriented, have more of idea of being a leader, that could serve all. But they just didn't pick them. Even Christie.
I think that's the key word, Motor Mouth. Someone that is going to be inclusive instead of exclusive, and that's the problem. And don't get me wrong, I'm kind of conservative to an extent at the core, but I just can't wrap my mind around the way the Republicans, the platform is. I just can't be ultra conservative. I don't think it's right. I can't think that way, and I think that's really. Like, for instance, some of the comments and everything that occurred right on up to the election, like the Republican that made the comment about rape, and then the situation with the Lily Ledbetter and the abortion debate and, what was it?
They lost.
But I'm just saying, these particular senators that came out and made those comments, guess what? You're right. They lost they lost their positions. And what it is like, it's not even about whether it's something that I would use for myself. It's about being able to let other people make their own decisions about, especially women in particular. I just think a woman should be able to make a decision about what she's going to do in a particular situation with her body. I'm not interested in going back to 1835 or whatever, when women had to fight the vote and fight just basic human rights. I'm not interested. And apparently a lot of other people are not also,
Exactly.
And then you had the situation with the Latino vote, because the Latino vote was 71%. For Obama. Wonder why. Think about all the things that Romney came out and said about Latinos. It's just interesting. So I don't know, the Republican Party, they may have to actually, they don't have to do anything, but if they're going to move in a new direction, they might need to be a little bit more open-minded to include a larger percentage of people that's going to consider voting for them, I think, if they want to win.
Well, I just think they need, also with that, but also add into it, pretty much the same thing that you're saying, is actually look at the new America, that is have formed. It's not forming, but it have formed.
It's here.
Yeah, and they need to adjust their, well, again, I say, they just need to find more, let the quality people come up and lead the party, because, again, I think they have some good candidates, that was, in the their primaries, but they did not elect to choose them. They let them flow on by and drop out, because I think Christie and there was someone out of New York, a couple of people, that ran before. I think that was good candidates, that could give
Governor
Obama,
Christie. I really like
Obama more competition.
Right. I really respected how he handled the situation too with the Hurricane Sandy. That was, he handled it very well.
He kept himself in position of his job.
Exactly. And then I love the fact that, they put politics to the side and they came out and he did what he was elected to do. He handled, he stepped up to the plate. Obama, and to me, ultimately, that's what politics is supposed to be about. And I think somewhere along the line, the Republicans and the Democrats on some level have forgotten that. When something is really going on in the United States and America, really you're supposed to put politics to the side and get together and do what needs to be done, even if you have to work with somebody that doesn't see things in the world the way that you see it.
Well, I look at it, agree with you on that.
It's
but
public service.
I just think for public service, all the government, came out and did a good job on that.
They did.
They got together and did what they needed to do. They didn't give the president no type of hassle or anything. They got the funding. They got everything in place and everything. So everything worked as the unit's supposed to work. And like you said, they put the politics aside and took care of what they wanted, needed to do.
And made it work.
And I think, Mitt had done the same thing, to show that he was a leader and put the things aside instead of trying to brown pick or blue pick or however you want to say, nitpick, certain issues and really had a genuine heart at what he was trying to do in his effort. I think he even came out better, and he could have capitalized from Sandy. But it wasn't even about capitalizing. It was about doing what you should be doing as a leader,
Exactly, Motor Mouth. That's my thing. I think in a situation like that, where you have people that have lost their homes, lost their everything, their homes, their transportation, their livelihood, their food, their memories, there's no way you can show up in person, or so I believe, and be phony about it. People can see through it. They can tell whether you're sincere or not. And you're right. I think, it was bad PR. My thing is, if you can't show up and show a little empathy in a situation, then don't bring your behind down there, because people are going to see through it. And that's just it. And, just my opinion, he did not seem sincere. It's like he just I don't want to say took advantage, but it's almost like he decided, well, it's a good PR opportunity, and I am on the road, promoting, he was on the road. They both were when the situation occurred. So I just think they decided to just, go do their thing and get some pictures and photos snapped and moved on. But it just didn't come across as sincere.
Well, it wasn't.
That was the problem.
Yeah, it
wasn't sincere.
If he was sincere, he would stop going going west and went back east,
Right.
In his direction and everything, and took a day or two off from campaigning.
Right.
And then, got back into it, just like they tried to make Obama seem like he was doing something wrong, like he should still be concentrating.
They criticized it because
when he got back in the campaign.
Right.
But him and Christie and the rest of the government already have things in place.
Right.
And it was just now for the fulfillment of everybody doing their part.
Right. And in case we should forget, the situation in Jersey and New York and any area that's been affected by Sandy, it's not over. They're still taking donations. I think both were when the situation occurred. So I just think they decided to just, go do their thing and get some pictures and photos snapped and moved on. But it just didn't come across as sincere.
Well, it wasn't.
That was the problem.
Yeah,
Wasn't sincere.
You know, if he was sincere, you know, he would stop going going west and went back east, you know.
Right.
In his direction and everything, and took a day or two off from campaigning.
Right.
And then, you know, got back into it, you know, just like they try to make Obama seem like he was doing something wrong, like he should still be concentrating.
They criticized it because
when he got
know,
back in the campaign.
Right.
You know, but him and Christie and the rest of the government already have things in place.
Right.
And it was just now for the fulfillment of everybody doing their part.
Right.
You know.
And in case we should forget, the situation in Jersey and New York and any area that's been affected by Sandy, it's not over. You know, they're still taking donations.
Live and in full effect, this is Black Leaf online. And whenever I listen to the radio, I listen to WEOM 103.1 FM with Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth. Peace.
You're tuned to Thomasville, North Carolina's Best Gospel, WEOM 103.1 FM.
Enjoy your day. You're listening to Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth on 103.1 FM, WEOM, Thomasville, North Carolina.
Welcome back, guys. This is Kaye Dee.
And this is Motor Mouth.
And we're coming at you from the Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth radio show. We're talking about the election.
Yeah.
And FEMA. FEMA. I bet Mr. Romney's thinking about FEMA right now, too.
Yeah, he put his foot in his mouth on that
I think he did, Motor Mouth. Oh, my goodness. But, yeah, you know, during the Hurricane Sandy situation, all I could think about was, you know, correct me if I am incorrect on this, Motor Mouth, but didn't Mitt Romney say that if it was up to him to decide what to do during a natural disaster, that he would, I don't want to say eliminate FEMA, but he would pretty much downsize it, almost get rid of FEMA. Well, and let the disaster recovery period be all on each individual state where the disaster occurred at. Now, I'm looking at New York and New Jersey and parts of Philly, and I'm looking at this mess. It's going to take who knows how much money. Millions for sure. I mean, the boardwalk is gone in New Jersey. It's gone. Yeah.
Well, the mayor of the boardwalk of that town said he's going to have it back up by spring.
Are they going to really put the boardwalk back? Because
because you got to remember, those people, I think it's about 5,600 people that actually live in that little town.
Right, right.
Their money is made off of tourism. You know, people coming to the boardwalk.
I can see that.
So it's very essential that they get back up and running.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, but I guess I'm thinking about something that I saw on this NASA site where they were talking about in the future, you know, I'm not sure about it, but they were talking about in the future climate changes and what's going to occur with the natural shoreline of Jersey, California, even parts of Florida. So based on that, you know, I'm just wondering if they're going to put it back in the same exact spot, but I guess they will.
Well, you know, with today's science and technology that's out there, they should be able to, I think, build accordingly to the weather, you know, because we're in another era of time.
We are.
And as we get away from the sun and getting more into the, I think they call it the dwarf planet or the dwarf sun, we're going to begin to have colder
the climate is changing. Right. The weather's changing. Exactly.
And
the
then
pattern
we might
is changing.
Even get a little hotter summers, but we're going to have maybe colder winters coming up, you know, because I was looking at dealing with the ice age and how that come, and that's a cycle. You know,
life is a cycle.
Yeah, you know, it's a cycle, and we just entering a whole nother cycle.
And that's why I was wondering.
Or a new cycle of time.
That's why I was wondering, would it be, you know, logical to put it back in the same exact? I don't know. I don't have the answer. I'm just wondering out loud. Just like with Katrina. With Katrina, they supposedly were able to control things based on the levees, but there are parts of Katrina where they didn't even put everything back the same spot. I'm sure it had a lot to do with money and funding also, but, you know. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with the rebuilding the parts of New York that were affected by Sandy and FEMA. And let's just look at the bright side. At least FEMA was there, because if Mr. Romney had anything to do with it, he would get rid of FEMA, right along with PBS, which I'm still upset about. PBS,
yeah, but you know, I give, you know, Mick the fact is just like that. It was not his job to handle, you know.
Right,
He was not president. And, you know, even though he was running for it, it just so happened didn't happen on his watch. Because if it happened on his watch, we'd be in a different situation about everything.
Yeah. You got that right.
In fact, he didn't get a watch, so hey.
Right, right.
Because, it was kind of funny, I look at so many reasons why he didn't get elected. And then, as I was saying earlier, he just had too much, baggage, with him. First, the religion thing.
I thought he was just too conservative. Ultra conservative was just my honest opinion. I tried to I don't dislike Mitt Romney, don't get me wrong. I think he's probably a nice person and a good person, a good man. I don't know. But I just couldn't get with his theories and his beliefs. Well, you're talking about Mr. He's really a bishop, so I shouldn't be surprised.
Or a high priest.
High priest for the Mormon church. Right. So, yeah, I wouldn't expect for him to be anything but conservative, but I just couldn't think that way about, being ultra conservative in areas that affect a wide scope of people. And for me, when he came out with the 47%, that just kind of, I'm like, well, that took me on a different vibe also. Mm-hmm. It really did. But kind of along the same lines, I was listening to Neil Boyd. You ever listen to Neil Boyd?
Yes.
It was really my first time really listening to this man. And I was kind of amazed at what he was talking about. I was like, oh, my goodness.
Well, I don't even pay attention to him. I don't even acknowledge what he'd be talking about because I just
was just amazed, Motor.
He's just like any other typical Republican broadcaster and looking at, the old school versus the new school, and can just always have negative things or connotations in his speaking about issues.
Negative was an understatement from what I heard. Maybe I was tripping because I don't normally listen to Neil.
Well, I don't even want to give him time. I don't even want to give him time on our show to
Wow, I don't either. Okay. But I was going to relate it back to politics and, just my belief about how things kind of line up a certain way, because it's just a perfect example, or so I believe, of being ultra conservative when the world overall has changed. It's like they don't want to change with it.
Well, I look at it, it's not even that. I look at it, there's a way to keep turmoil boiling.
Keep it going. Keep stuff going,
and
exactly.
I look at him and a few others that do the exact same thing.
Right.
Okay? They have a form of brainwashing.
And isn't Herman Cain also on the same platform with Neil Boyd? I'm guessing, because I don't really listen to.
He's going to take over Neil's show.
He is?
Or he's going to have his own Herman Cain show.
Okay.
When Neil retire at the end of this year.
Okay, that's interesting. It's interesting. But I just couldn't believe all the stuff that it was coming out. I'm like, oh my goodness, am I misunderstanding? Is it satire? Let me listen for a second. I thought it was a joke, but no. And long story short, I'm sure there's a lot of ultra-conservative Republicans right now this morning that are probably packing. They said they were going to leave the United States, so it's going to be interesting.
Ain't nobody leaving the United States.
They say they're leaving the United States.
Their money is being made here in the United States, so they're not leaving.
And then if they're not leaving, they say they're going to pack in a different form. They're going to be packing with some heat and some guns. They want to fight. I'm like, okay. It's going to be interesting. That's all I can say.
Well, there's still a war in Afghanistan. They could ship them off.
You talking about a fight over here? Oh, you say ship them on out?
They can ship them off.
They sure can. I like that solution, Motor Mouth. I like that.
They can ship them off. That's the KKK and all that stuff.
The KKK had a special on Dateline. They were talking about what's going to happen should Barack Obama win. I'm like, okay, it's going to be interesting.
To me, it's funny how they getting people for terrorist acts. A statement, and these groups definitely fall in that category.
Right here in the United States, right here on the public airways.
They fall in that category.
And isn't it all, to me, it's all the same thing as in the hate crime category, like you said. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but they're still there.
They hate groups and, and all that good stuff. And don't seem to bother them.
It's interesting, though, Motor Mouth. It just, shows an example of where the Republican platform is coming from, I suppose. But anyway, it was very interesting election. I enjoyed the ups and the downs and keeping up with the charts and the stats. But I still think what was most interesting to me was the fact that the people in Florida actually stayed in line. I'm telling you, Motor Mouth, it had to be around 11 o'clock-ish Central Time. I mean Eastern Time, and they were still counting the votes in Florida. And they actually, I think it was at Florida and Ohio.
Virginia.
And Virginia. No, it was Florida, Virginia. Florida, Virginia.
stayed open late.
Right. They stayed open late, and they told people as long as they were in line and still waiting that their vote would be counted. So I was amazed. And when I fell asleep, and I think actually this morning, Motor Mouth, they were still counting the votes in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh my goodness, are the people still in line in Florida?
Well, they shut down the lines at 7.
That's
but,
all I can say.
Everybody that was in line,
yeah,
they were gave them the right to vote because they was in line.
They stayed in line. I'm like, my hats is off to the folks because they stayed right in line. That was all right. But that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. But anyway, we're going to take a quick break. This is Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth with the Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth radio show. We'll be back in a moment.
You're listening to Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth.
You're listening to Thomasville, North Carolina's best gospel station, WEOM 103.1 FM.
Live and in full effect, this is Black Leaf online. And whenever I listen to the radio, I listen to WEOM 103.1 FM with Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth.
Welcome back, guys. This is Kaye Dee with the Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth radio show.
And this is Motor Mouth.
Yeah, we're just going over the election, a few things. And I'm looking, Motor Mouth, I'm looking at actually bills that passed, what's new, because let's think in a new direction, because we're heading there.
Yeah.
Whether we want to or not.
Well, I figure, first of all, I got a question. I know I shouldn't even open up this can of worms. In Colorado and Washington
State.
Okay, did they go to Romney or did they go to Obama? I'm just curious about that before I even open my mouth about the next thing.
Well, I'm assuming you're referencing the fact that last night, after the election, two of the things that caught my eye in the headlines also.
But did they go Republican or Democrat?
I'm just going to read what happened, and you tell me, since you got the question, okay? What happened last night was Colorado and Washington became the first states to legalize marijuana for recreational use.
That's not where I'm going, though.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
And voters...
Were they Republican or Democrat? Because I find it kind of interesting.
You guess. What do you think?
Well, I don't know, but, different stories that I was hearing about, the drug trade and everything, and how I hear more about the Republican Party than I do the Democrat Party controlling that in the United States.
It's called Amendment 64.
Okay.
This measure seeks the legalization of marijuana for recreational use by adults, and it was passed by the Colorado voters. So I guess it was passed by the popular vote, making Colorado the first state to end marijuana prohibition in the United States. Mm-hmm. Wow. 36 precincts, reported at the time of publishing. Wow. Well, Colorado is a beautiful state. I've gone to Boulder before. It's absolutely gorgeous with all the pretty aspen trees and everything. It's nice and it's clean and beautiful brooks and water and mountains. And
so everybody can get a good contact.
It's going to be a different vibe going over there on Rocky Mountain High now. That's all I can say about it. I'm amazed. I'm like, wow. Look at y'all. Don't get to packing. All y'all dead heads. Don't start packing going to Colorado yet, because I guarantee you somebody's probably trying to overturn this. What do you think? Somebody's probably trying to overturn this, Motor Mouth.
I really don't know.
It's interesting.
Because to me, there's other states to me that already done things, a little different, but pretty much. Like in Ohio,
haven't they approved it for medical use, marijuana use in California?
But in Ohio, you got a thing called an Ohio bag.
A what?
An Ohio bag, which is right below a quarter pound that you're allowed to have, and it's been like that for 20, 30 years.
Wow.
That's
new to me.
If you get caught with it or something like that, it's only a misdemeanor.
That's a new one to me now,
I think it's up to 112 grams or something like that.
Well, according to this, they have specifications and rules and regulations for the amount and all that kind of stuff also with the amendment that passed last night. So in Washington and Colorado, the first thing, as a rule, you have to be an adult. You have to be over 21 years of age, right? And if you're over 21, you're going to be able to buy up to an ounce of marijuana. Trying to find the other part of this little thing because I don't want to misquote this at all.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's like this here.
So it's up to an ounce, I suppose.
But
up to an ounce at over age 21.
Okay, but see, still with the law and everything, or you know, if they voted, it still don't meet federal requirements.
This is interesting,
you
though.
know, so the federals, you know, the feds could still override it and still
right
because they still have it being illegal.
That's why I say you folks trying to pack up your potheads, don't get to packing and going to Colorado and Washington State. And you know, it's interesting to me. These are all Washington State is also another beautiful state. I mean, as far as natural beauty. I can't see folks up there smoking marijuana legally, but it's going to be interesting. But anyway, in this article it says, although Colorado legalized it, it will be several months, perhaps as long as a year, before Colorado adults 21 and over can enjoy the legal sale of marijuana. Mm-hmm. Okay. They don't say anything referencing medical marijuana. Well, it says recreational use.
That's all they got to do.
Wow.
Yeah. They're not even looking at the medical part of it. Mm-hmm. So everybody could become their own doctor under recreational use.
Lord, Motor Mouth don't say that. That's all I can say.
I mean, that's what it really
Oh,
saying.
my gosh. Yeah, because it was actually voted down in 2006, and they put it up again, and it passed. Wow, that's interesting. But something else I found to be also interesting, I'm just looking at everything that occurred last night that passed and what's different. Like I say, Motor Mouth, we're moving in a new direction as a country overall. Like something else that caught my eye is for the first time we have our first openly gay senator. It's a lady by the name of Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, and she's a Democrat. And it's the first time we've had a senator, and I'm sure it's not the first time we've had a senator that's been gay, but it's the first time we've had one that's been openly gay. So that's the first. We have openly gay, and she's a woman. So that's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in Wisconsin also. Mm-hmm. And something else that was new and interesting was, let's see, we had the marijuana law and the first openly gay senator. And they were also saying something around the fact that it's the first time since, I can't remember the last president that this occurred. But it also goes back to why the Republicans Party was so confident with the fact that they thought they were going to win. Because it is very unusual and pretty much a non-norm for a president to actually win re-election with the unemployment rate being as high as it is right now. So that's kind of like, I think it's not a first, it's really along the line of a second. But
right. Well, you know, that's understandable. I mean, because again, as you know, people's not asleep, you know.
No, they're not.
And as I say, and I just, you know, feel like the polls and everything, you know, I didn't even really pay attention to them because I didn't believe in them. Mm-hmm. And people is not asleep. They realize that the problem that Obama faced is something that he inherited. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think overall, more than half of the people, you know, just being fair, know he done the best he could. The way he couldn't get the Republicans to work with him on his amendments and the things to even improve the system that much better from what Bush gave to him. I mean, so there was a lot of things there because I looked at it. I did see one poll where they did say that I think it was 60 or 80% of the people felt that the problem that Obama faced was inherited from the Bush administration.
I saw that same poll.
Right.
You know,
did. So, you know, as I say, there's just so much going on. I couldn't even see Romney even getting up that close to even making it tight. And the American people look stupid to me. That after that first debate that they just threw everything out of the window, now they're going to say they neck to neck, you know, when there was no way near that they could be neck to neck. And I think last night told the story, you know, and they, you know, still having a hard time accepting it. But the man won over 300 and some electoral votes, where Romney just very made it 206.
Right.
And all the things that's not counted in yet.
Right, because in Florida, they still count.
And I think, you know, like with Florida, they got a large number of electoral votes. So, you know, it's just, you know.
What's up with Florida? I mean, I'm thinking about the George Bush election and everything. They had the problems with the tads on the vote. What's up with Florida? I don't know. I don't get it. What's up with Florida?
I guess, you know, Florida have...
Is it just because there's a high population of people that retire and go to Florida? I mean...
No, I just think that you know, Florida got power. You know, I mean, you know, you got...
They got power now. Don't get me wrong.
You got a lot, I mean, when you really break it down...
They have power.
Between New York, California, and
Florida,
and Texas,
right.
And New York...
You got the electoral votes, and they got money.
You got money. It's just like if you could throw Chicago in there and a couple other cities. When you in Detroit, when you go into those cities, you dealing with some old money. So
but
you
I'm just
don't know
looking at
what's
the fact
going on.
that, okay, money or no money, what is the deal with the votes? It's always some
Well,
iffy thing with Florida and the voting system. I'm just curious.
I look at it this way here. If they hold the trump card of voting, let's say it like that.
And
Even
I guess
Virginia,
it's working for them. They say, hey, we get our votes in when we get them in.
Because
it's still counting. I'm like, okay.
I think, like even the last time, with the funny going on.
The funny. What's that about?
That's the election thing. Florida have always held that card. That's what
right.
They a Trump card.
Right.
Because, and I think this time around, they wasn't able to throw that card in there, because there was just too much going on. Because, like, at the last minute, who owned the voting machine?
Well, that's a mess,
what's this,
too.
that going
on? Exactly. Because I'm thinking, and why was nobody really talking about that last night? Because, I mean, that's an article that we started to actually report on about a month ago. Well, not a month ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and we kind of ran out of time and got it all into another political arena. But I found that interesting that the Romney family had some ownership in the voting machines. And what was even more interesting to me was they were claiming that the voting machines that were under question, that were very much in the spotlight at the moment, were in Ohio. And Ohio was a state that they were like fighting over almost last night, okay? A battleground state. It was crazy to me. I'm like, to me, it's like a conflict of interest. How can you have ownership in anything that's actually counting and tallying votes up? And to break it down on a different level, Motor Mouth, they were also saying that everything was fine and under control because they actually did a software update the day before the election. I'm like, well, that's really making me feel comfortable now, right? A software update? Mm-hmm. And you guys have ownership in the company that manufactures and produces the voting machines? What?
Yep.
I don't know, Motor Mouth. It's a strange world. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it's very, very strange.
Very strange world. Very strange.
I mean, so... It's just that, to me, it just didn't work out.
It didn't.
For some reason, it didn't work out. Or maybe it was planned that way. You don't never know what's really going on.
You never know. You're right.
It's just that we can just hope that we get a fair break or shake, as they say, at what's going down. That the jobs come back, to the country. Mm-hmm. Everybody can find a job, again, maybe have 1, 2, or 3 jobs, like before.
Mm-hmm.
And see this country flourish, like
it would be nice.
We are. Yeah,
it would be nice to see everybody. All I want in my lifetime is just to see everybody have an opportunity. If you want to do something, just let the opportunity be there to do so. That's all I ask for. If you don't want to do a doggone thing, then that's your business. But, just some opportunities would be nice. That's all I'm trying to say. Oh, I know what it was that I forgot to mention, Motor Mouth, about something else that was not a first, but it was kind of heading in a different direction that occurred last night after the election, and that was, it was the first openly gay senator and the marijuana passage. And on top of it, we have 2 more states that actually, you get it right now, Motor Mouth. I don't want to get this incorrect. Okay. For the first time, voters in Maine and Maryland voted to allow loving couples to make lifelong commitments through marriage. So it's a new marriage thing, additional, not new. Mm-hmm. Forever taking away the right-wing talking point that marriage equality couldn't win on the ballot. And this was a quote by Chad Griffin of the Human Rights Campaign, which is a national gay rights group. So what happened, basically, in a nutshell, is gay marriage is now legal in 6 states and the District of Columbia. So we got D.C. and 6 other states where gay marriage is now legal. So again, if the Republicans and the ultra-conservatives have a problem with this, for the next go-around, they're going to have to do a little bit more inclusion, because it's kind of like what we were saying on the show, I guess like maybe a month ago, Motor Mouth. My thing is, I'm not trying to live anybody else's life, and I'm not trying to tell other people what to do. And if anybody want to fight to get married, God bless them. That's all I can say. I'm not even going down that road right now. But, whether we like it or not, America, it's changing. And you're either with the program or you're not. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You can't take people and just ostracize them in little, the KKK, that's exactly what they want to do. They want to I was looking at this show on Dateline, not to get off topic, but That's exactly what they want to do, based on what they said to Diane Sawyer on Dateline.
But you know,
they want to give the gay people their states. They want to give the blacks their states. They want to give Latinos. We're talking about individual states within the U.S. and segregate everybody off, and everybody lives in their own little enclave.
But you know, even over that though, you know, I just find, you know, we're just going down the Sodom and Gomorrah, or however you want to consider Armageddon, you know, quicker and faster than what's going on. Because with them doing that, that just make it be open for more chaos, you know, and everything. Because now there's no more value for the law of God, you know, and I just find the conflict. The law of God? Yeah, I find a conflict of interest, you know, being there from the way this country was set up, or where the where the laws go. And I just think that they could handle it, you know, in a lot better manner than trying to make it be against the books of what people's belief systems are and different things, that they could just came up and did that union in a whole different name, bring something new on for that would not disturb the
origins of marriage.
Teachings,
is that what you mean?
Or certain teachings that this country was founded upon. And that's just like how you have so many ministers telling people don't show up, don't vote.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't do that because of ministers telling them to stay home and not vote. And then you had ministers that were telling people that if you do go vote, to use the option to write in a candidate, and instead of writing in a libertarian or someone else that would actually receive a vote, to write in the name Jesus. I went, are they serious? Are they for real?
I mean, but that's what I'm saying. You got belief systems.
We got some craziness going on, for I'm concerned. That's the craziest thing I ever heard.
And none of the belief systems, believe it or not, none of the belief systems that this country utilize or operate on this actually endorse that. It's individual ministers or somebody coming up there and saying, well, we're going to accept it because we're going to love all God's children, you know. But in their doctrine, that was the most hideous crime that you could do, and you was cast out of the church for the rest of your life, you know. So as I say, you know, I just think they are setting up for another war among. I mean, we already got a problem of holding our values, and I'm just looking at what that really say to kids. And we already got enough trouble trying to lead them down the road.
You confuse me. You're saying what homosexuality says to kids, or the marriage of people that are homosexual?
I'm just saying the whole ordeal. You know, I think they could handle it in a different manner. You know, I think if, you know, people want union like that, they could have called it something else other than marriage.
You mean like giving it another name?
Exactly. You know, and just handle it a little different so the other social issues that we're dealing with, it wouldn't affect it so much, you know, and everything. Because I'm like you. I'm not trying to tell someone else how to live their life or what their preferences are and everything. Because deep down inside, I don't know what caused them to be that way.
Me
you know,
either.
Right? That's
I don't have a clue.
You know, as far as I know, I could take a wild notion and say, hey, that's the ancestors coming back.
And see, my thing is, don't get me wrong, I'm not gay. Yeah. I'm not trying to throw nothing out there, but no, I have never questioned my sexuality at all, okay?
Right, exactly.
I ain't no loose, crazy woman, but I know what I like. And my thing is this. Just because I don't understand something, I'm the type of person, doesn't mean that I can't empathize or give somebody the respect that they deserve because they're not. Yeah, we get what I'm trying to say.
Same boat
exactly.
That you're in.
It's the same when I look at someone that may be in a situation where they're looking at the abortion laws for whatever reason. Just because, you know, it doesn't apply to me at this point in time doesn't mean that I can't empathize and relate to someone else that it might apply to. And I think as far as the gay marriage controversy that's going on right now, you know, this is just my belief. I think that all gay people really want is to be acknowledged and to have the options too. Like, for instance, if you work for a company and you have, insurance. Or if you are in the hospital and if you're sick and, you know, if you're dying, let's break it down, and you're a gay couple, I think all they want is the same right for their partner, whoever that may be, to at least be acknowledged and to be able to share financially, mentally, physically, and emotionally, just like a traditional couple. I think that's really all they want. And maybe you're right, Motor Mouth. I mean, I don't have the answer, and I'm sure not judging because I'm being real. I have some people that are very close to me that are openly gay. And so I'm not judging at all. All I want them to do is just be happy.
Yeah, I think everybody, you know, somewhere upon the planet,
everybody knows somebody that's gay.
Yeah,
Let's keep it real, okay?
And every family member or every family somewhere along, like cousin, uncle, or whatever, got somebody, got different
And if you love them, you love them, and you just want to see them happy. That's all I want. I'm not trying to judge anybody. And I still say, anybody want to fight to get married, God bless you. Because I'm not even going there, but God bless you. But keep in mind, it's like you fight to get married, you're going to have to fight to get divorced if everything fall apart. Gay couples, so that's going to be interesting to see how many gay couples actually end up in divorce fighting over the craziness. But hey, welcome to the world of marriage. It's a possibility.
It's not nothing new. You know,
ain't
they
nothing
do that
new.
now. You know? Well, we need to take a break, and we'll be back.
We'll be back in a moment.
Live and in full effect, this is Black Leaf online. And whenever I listen to the radio, I listen to WEOM 103.1 FM with Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth. Peace.
Enjoy your day. You're listening to Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth on 103.1 FM, WEOM, Thomasville, North Carolina.
Hello, welcome back. You listen to Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth. And we've been talking about this presidential elections and the different changes that have been going on in the country from the election.
That's right.
So what was the most amazing thing that surprised you about the election?
The most amazing thing that surprised me?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, okay, there were two things that were amazing to me. It was amazing to me, and I wasn't looking for anything. I really was not looking to pinpoint anything, but I was looking at, I think it was, can't recall what channel it was. It was one of the mainstream channels, Fox, might have been who it was. But it's interesting to me how they kept saying, you know, Governor Romney. And then on the other hand, you know, this was like when they were bringing the stats up and comparing tit for tat and everything, when it, you know, was neck and neck with the reports coming in. I just noticed how they kept saying Mr. Obama. And I mean, don't get me wrong, he is a Mr. Obama, but I just thought it was kind of disrespectful, maybe a little rude, because technically he still was like, for instance, when you see President Clinton bop out right now, or even President Bush, they still call them president, and they're no longer in office. So I just thought it was a little not in a big thing, but just a little disrespectful. They kept calling him Mr. Obama. Why not President Obama?
I kind of go back to that thing back in the day when Tom Joyner and Tavis Smiley used to do the Tom Joyner morning show.
Oh, okay.
And they had that thing that came on, Hitting Racism.
I remember that show, yeah. I don't know if it's Hidden Racism. All I know is it just kind of bothered me for some reason.
You know, because that was one of the things that kind of caught me too. But, you know, it was funny to see certain people having problems.
It's like
acknowledging
they
that
having
he was
problem
winning,
saying it. I'm like, oh my
that
goodness.
he was winning.
The man has been in office for 4 years. Hello,
Right.
It's not like it would be, you know,
and then
a new thing.
And then I guess what was interesting to me, how they try to justify him winning. You know, they couldn't accept
breaking
it.
down the stats, and not to get that deep with the stats again. But this is what also bugged me, since we talking about pet peeves with the election. Okay. It bothers me to have people going around saying that, you know, black people would only vote for Obama because he's black. Don't get me wrong. I'm not naive. There are some black people that would only vote for Obama because he's black. But guess what? Most people would not. Okay? A lot of people, regardless of what people that are not black believe, really focus on quality and service and the best thing that's going to work for them and their family. Okay? So I'm like, there's no way on this planet I would just vote for somebody just because he's black. Okay. It ain't going to happen.
But it's just like this here. Even if all the people of color,
you're going to break down the stats, right?
Even if all the people of color voted for Obama, it would still take the other people.
Thank you.
To vote for him to win.
Just like the first time the election occurred and he won.
So they need to stop trying to make it be a racial thing.
They're trying to make it a racial thing when it's actually not. It's not a black or white thing.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the Latino vote was 71%. 71% of Obama's voters were Latino. Okay, and I'm going by memory because I don't have stats in front of me. I'm just going by trying to go by. Like I said, I'm a little sleep deprived, but from what I recall last night, it was a little over 10% that were white voters, and I think it was white female voters. It was a little over 10%. And as far as African American, guess what? It was a little over 10%. Well, it just irritates me when they're trying to make it seem like it's just a black thing for Obama when it's not.
But even with those numbers that you just quoted, it had to be a greater, white percentage that get it.
Of course it was.
Because, how many white men voted for Obama?
Of course it was. They try to make it appear.
If they say that only 10% white, female voted for him, because there was a lot. There had to be more than, I say, 30 to 40%
logically
to do that. But when you take the people of color and put the Asians in there too, only going to come up with 20%. If you be lucky, if you get 20% of the United States population.
Well, look, Motor Mouth, I didn't do the stats, and I like statistics and probability, and I know it depends on certain things. And then, too, it depends on when they put everything together, because I'm going by polls that were just popping up last night and a few that popped up this morning. But you're right. Logically, and that's my other pet peeve. They make it seem like it's just a black thing. Well, it's impossible for it to just be a black thing, because if it was just a black thing, he would just not be in office.
Exactly.
That's all I'm trying to say. And the other thing that wasn't a pet peeve, but that I just found fascinating during this election, was the actual use of social media.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter was off the chain with the election last night. And I find that fascinating. It just goes to show again, we're going in a different direction. And I think there's something else that the Republican Party did not count on or something. I don't know whether they couldn't embrace it, whether they just don't get it, or whether they just didn't think it was important. But reality is there was a lot of new voters and young voters that needed to be reached out to. And they failed to do that. The Republican Party did. And the Obama administration, on the other hand, did reach out. As a matter of fact, when it was concluded that he was the actual winner last night, he actually made an announcement on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
On Twitter. I thought that was pretty awesome. And I also like the fact how he, it was during the PSA, I can't remember if it was a PSA or actual Democratic commercial, where Obama came out and did fluent Spanish, and I loved it. It was fluent. Yeah. It was awesome. Mm-hmm. And all it is to me, it's not about being, making perfection occur in each thing that you do, but you have to make an effort to try to reach out on a broader level to reach a larger group of people if you really want to present yourself as being interested in representing the entire American population, not just 47%. Okay.
In his acceptance speech last night, he pretty much, laid that out like that when he picked all
you want to embrace everybody,
and races that's here, and not blue and not red, but the United States. He did a good job.
He did.
And as I said, I think in so many ways, he gave Romney all the chances in the world to win. I don't know why, because just like he did that closing statement last night, he could have done that on all three debates.
Right.
He could
have.
So I can't say that, it was the people, of the United States that elected Barack again, President Barack Obama,
To be an American.
Yeah, so that's what I see happen,
Uh-huh. But, regarding closing statements, okay, I'm going to be fair. I got to give it to Governor Romney. It was a very nice closing statement. It was a nice one. It was very eloquent. It was very gentlemanly. And it was just nice. It was a nice closing statement. It took him a while to get out there and do it. And I still think he was in the back drinking something for the first time in his life, just between me and you, Motor Mouth. I know he's morbid. I know he didn't drink alcohol, but I guarantee he drank some strong tea or something last night, because you let me stop. But it took him forever to come out. But on a serious note, the media was trying to say that he only prepared one speech, and it was for winning, not for losing, which I can understand mentally. Mind over matter. I get that, but it was a lot of people waiting, and it took forever for him to come out last night. But it was a nice speech when he did present it.
Well, I guess, it was a hard statement for him to do,
I'm sure
or a hard thing. When, like within the Mormon church, they got him as a high priest and looking at him being God. So, that was something deep right there, that happened because they were supposed to win, because
But what are you trying to say, Motor Mouth? He was in the back taking off his crown and robe.
He was doing
That's
something.
what took it so long.
Because that white horse prophecy just didn't come to be this time. So I say again, I don't think the Mormons are going to give up for that seat, because I'm quite sure they want to make that white horse prophecy or the red horse prophecy come real, and they came close to doing it, trying to make America hang by a thread and do what they need to do.
Right.
To fulfill that. And I feel that, over, being president and everything else, he would still honor the oath that he
to the Mormon Church,
right, that he went under when he was initiated. And I think a lot of people, even though they don't want to bring it up, but I think that had a lot to do with him not being accepted, in there because of just their belief on Christ, and the different things. So, as I say again, I see other things going on with this gay stuff and different things that is tampering with the threads that made the garment, that this country was, based upon. Yeah. And I just think that if he really won, we really felt that garment being tampered with,
Right.
And so, as I say, the media to me didn't bring out the certain things that, to me, that was the value of the backbone of the American people. And one of the backbones of the American people, regardless of how we get along, is faith.
Right.
It's very important, you're
right, Motor Mouth. It's interesting. Nobody even really mentioned Governor Romney's faith. That's just interesting to me, because if you think back to when the election occurred, when Barack Obama and George Bush were going against each other, that's all you heard about Obama. Is he a Muslim? Is he Christian? What is he? Remember, they even brought the man's preacher up. You couldn't turn around without looking at videos of Reverend Wright. I'm like, oh my goodness. So it's just interesting to me. Nobody even brought up the fact that Governor Romney is a bishop and a high priest in the Mormon Church. Mm-hmm. And I'm not dogging it or anything. I mean, I'm not knocking it. I just found it interesting. It's like a double standard. Nobody even addressed it.
That's a great accomplishment.
It is a great accomplishment, but I just think something that people at least need to be aware of. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think and then basically on that is basically the belief system, how that is so different from every other Occidental or however you want to consider it. Religion.
Mm-hmm. That, and if you're cool with it, you're cool with it. Right. But at least it should have at least been brought up and addressed and discussed. I think so. Anyway,
that could have been a big topic there.
Right.
Yeah, I say, just so much that was hidden, within the media about that. And it make me wonder, after doing a little, researches, it was amazing to me to see how well the Mormons got themselves set up in the government.
Make you want to holler. Yep, that's
true. So as I say, this was a close encounter. I'm gonna say of the third kind.
The third kind,
right? That most people would never ever wake up and realize what just occurred and what is occurring. Right. Because I still thinking, that we're still moving towards that old saying that we used to say, one nation under a groove, and I'll leave it like that. Because it seemed like it's going to be one world under a groove, regardless of who got into the office.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what direction we're going to go in, because it's a new day, and a new day and a new order. That's all I can say.
Yep.
But at least the election is over with, because I was tired of the mudslinging. It was getting ready to get a little uglier than what it was already, the way it was already sitting. And it's done. It's over. We can move on to the holidays. Speaking of such, Motor Mouth, I'm not going to start talking too much more. But have you noticed that people just seem to have skipped over Thanksgiving in the store? You can't find a picture of a turkey anyplace. And Christmas trees are everywhere. I'm like, oh my goodness. Are we going to do Thanksgiving as a country this year? They just went straight from the election straight to Christmas.
Yes, they've been doing that for about the last 10 or 15 years, though.
But, I didn't even see the cute little Publix commercials with the little Thanksgiving pilgrims and the turkey. I didn't see any of that yet. Just straight up Christmas commercials. Target.
No, they're waiting for Christmas to throw that in.
Like, wow.
They're going to throw that in when they do what they call the holiday season. They got to wait a little bit before they do the holiday season. The way, because they got caught with some complaints when they did it before Halloween.
So are you trying to say we're no longer going to have a transitional phase between holidays? We just go from one thing to another, boom, one thing to Christmas and be done with it?
Right. Well, it's
I mean, come on.
But they're just going to call it the holiday. Well, what they call it now, the holiday season.
They need to stop. Okay, Motor Mouth, I hear you. Anyway.
Because that way there, it don't offend nobody about their beliefs or anything.
I'm so tired of that.
You know,
we have to be overly politically correct about everything.
The Chinese have their day. The Christians have their day, you know, so, you know.
We got to do Rosh Hashanah and Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah.
Blacks got their day, Kwanzaa,
man,
you know, so everybody got their day. So now to make it be politically correct,
they just call it the holiday season.
Exactly.
Well, I still say it is not right to be looking at an election and looking at Christmas tree commercials.
Well, hey,
in the next second or two, it's just
you
a little
know,
too early.
It's not right to look at
saying
a Christmas tree when you're trying to get your trick or treat on.
Thank you. I was trying to get Halloween candy and had to find the Halloween candy way behind the Christmas tree. I said they need to stop. Oh my goodness!
So it's all
maybe
about
it's me.
That money.
Maybe it's me. I don't know.
Making that money.
Yeah, it's about the dollar.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're gonna wrap the show up today, and I want to do a quick shout out because Earl Harrison at WEOM, he was awesome yesterday. He handled the local community aspect, he handled the national community aspect, and he did it all by himself yesterday. So Earl, I salute. But anyway, Motor Mouth, you got anything you want to add to the show? Should we just wrap it on up?
No, I'm finished.
Well, me too. Yeah. This is Kaye Dee with the Kaye Dee Motor Mouth Radio Show, representing WEOM in Thomasville, North Carolina. I wish you guys peace and grace.
And have a good day.
This is Black Leaf with Kaye Dee and Motor Mouth. Peace.
If I should say I would only be in your way, so I'll go, but I know I'll think of you every step of the way. And I will always love you. I will always love you. You, my darling, you. Bittersweet memories, that is all I'm taking with me. So goodbye, please don't cry. We both know I'm not what you need.